Hello and welcome to another WolfCast episode. And today I have a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Akatif, Jason. So thank you for clearing out your very tight schedule in between building lots of yachts and managing hundreds, if not, I don't know, thousands of people. Um, and I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds to just like intro yourself, tell people whatever you wanna go by.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Maor. Background-wise, I consider myself a growth marketer, affiliate marketer, and entrepreneur. Love to build businesses and teams and leaders and all that good stuff. Probably done, I don't know, maybe created $1 billion in revenue between all the partners that we've ran stuff for over the years, as well as my own businesses. And just really enjoy solving problems and figuring out how to make things work is really my passion. Also working with great people. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, definitely anytime. And I always like talking to you, when I'm abroad at like conferences. I'm in between jet lags and I'm in between being either too drunk or just like I think I'm more like of like an introvert. So when someone talks to me at the conference, I'm just like so full of like just speaking to people, and I always feel like my English isn't good enough, and I lose confidence after a few days. Well, my English isn't good enough, but it's probably better than most Israelis. So I think the first time we met, I tried thinking about it going on this call. So I think it was 2018. I think it was Barcelona. I think it was Affiliate World. I think it was the first time I spoke on the main stage at Affiliate World. I did Geek Out before, one of the first Geek Outs, just when Nick Shackelford joined James back then. And I remember you had a table at this club. You probably, I don't think we ever talked about that. So you had a table at this club, and I absolutely did not know who you are. So I asked you who you are and what do you do and stuff, and you told me, oh, I have like an affiliate network. I own A4D, and I thought that you said it in a very modest way. Which, by the way, that's how you kind of like presented yourself right now, and that made me actually smile and laugh because I felt like so much stuff has gone throughout, in between 2018 and now. And the question that I'm getting to is actually, back then and also now, I saw that people really see you and intro you on stages as one of the bigger like OGs in the industry. So when it started or you started, I'm guessing you didn't really think that far ahead, like when you started, running and building those companies and just started in the industry, that you're going to be presented one day as like, an OG. And I look at myself, I'm like 34 now, and I see all of these 21, 25-year-olds, and they're like 9 years younger than me. And all of a sudden I'm used to being the kid, I'm used to being the and I'm like short, so people like they see me as a kid regardless of my age and stuff like that. So I was just like thinking of that point in time where I realized, okay, I'm not as young as I thought. People see me as like a senior right now in the industry. And I was wondering, like, when was that point in time for you where like you officially became an OG or recognized yourself as like an OG in the industry? And how did it feel? And did you like it more back then, or do you like it more now and stuff?
I I don't necessarily look at myself that way at all. Other people call me that. I'm just a guy over here that likes to solve problems and figure out how to, run campaigns or build businesses or whatever. And all of that pretty much comes from internally to me. Some people get their validation and recognition from the outside, but I very much get my validation and recognition from the inside. I think part of being a really strong leader, um, really part of being a really strong leader is you have to see the vision of the future, where we're going, and it doesn't exist and it's not there right now, but you see it in your head. You're like, for you, say you're running a campaign, like maybe your employees are like, I don't think this is going to work, but you can see it in your head. You're like, I know this is going to work. And here's the reason I know this is going to work. And then the other people can't see it. And I think to be a great leader, you have to stand in that uncertainty around you, right? Like people validating you, people telling you have a good idea, people telling you that stuff. I think being a strong leader comes from the inside. And I was actually just having a conversation with one of my team members, and there's a great book. My favorite sales book is called You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. It's by a guy named David Sandler. He has the Sandler Sales Institute in the US. And there's a chapter in there on something called role versus identity. Role versus identity. And oftentimes people will get confident in their role. So say you might say, hey, I'm a good media buyer. But they don't necessarily, that doesn't translate to their identity being, I am a confident person. Mm-hmm. And I'm using you as an example because you're on here. I'm not saying that is.
Yeah. No. So you're talking about the margin between how you identify yourself and what you actually do.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of times people will like build confidence in an area and say, I am confident at media buying. But internally, their identity is not, I am a confident person. So, I think a lot of that process, and people call me an OG, people can call me an asshole, people can call me whatever they want. Like, I really don't pay a lot of attention to it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I appreciate it in the sense that it gives me an opportunity. If somebody introduces me that way, people are more likely to listen a little more if I'm introduced that way, mm-hmm. which is great. And I appreciate that, anybody that does that for me. However, I don't even know when that started happening. I think so I was a moderator on Wicked Fire, and Wicked Fire was an old forum back in the days before Facebook and MySpace. Everybody lived on forums. And my methodology, I was older than everybody else. Everybody was in their early 20s or in college or something like that. And I was about 30 years old at this time. And I used to just be the level-headed one. It was like 4chan, if anybody knows what 4chan is. Mm-hmm. Everybody's making fun of each other and dishing on each other and whatever. And I was always the one that was like, somebody would ask a question, 50 people would tell them they're stupid, and I'd try and be the one that would be helpful to help them grow their business.
So that was my question, because I feel like, so my business coach told me that I shouldn't look at the results that I'm getting. I should look at the actions that I'm taking, because they're the ones that are going to bring me. So it doesn't matter, because the result depends on so many stuff that doesn't have to do with you. But at the end of the day, in reality, when you step out of that, culture, Instagram, kind of like motivational sentences, when there is a football team that goes on the field, even if they know that they're in excellent shape and they have an amazing coach and they keep on losing, they go on the field, they keep on losing, how do you gain confidence in, you talked about, I'm gonna, I see the end result. I see that this is gonna work. This project, whatever we're aiming towards, is gonna work. And even if my whole team thinks it's gonna, explode and they're completely pessimistic about the project, I still see it. So the question is, except from obviously you had a couple of wins, how did you gain that confidence? Like, was it like a seminar? Was it like a personal development thing? Was it like reading books?
Reading books and personal development, but that's part of the process. So to me, number one, you have to go, is this thing I'm doing, am I attributing the confidence to the specific thing that I'm doing? So the call I just had with one of my team members, he's like, I am confident at this thing. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not confident about all things, right? So for me, the question is, everything that I do builds my confidence, whether it fails or succeeds. Because my confidence comes from, if you took everything away from me, right now. You could take it all away. And by the way, I got sued by the Federal Trade Commission and I was at risk of losing it all, right? But if you took it all away from me, I know 1,000% I would be back to where I'm at within 12 months' time. That's confidence, right? And that's not like, I don't know how I would get there. I don't know what I would do. I couldn't answer that question right now, but I have the inner confidence to understand that I know I'm good and I know I will always figure it out. And I know that because I've done many different things over my career and I've failed at them and I've succeeded at them. But I think there's a really important process to learning and also to confidence building. So number one is everything I do builds confidence within me. It builds knowledge in that area, but I don't attach confidence to that area. I attach knowledge. And then my identity, every new thing that I do creates confidence inside of me as my identity versus my role.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following?
I understand. No, definitely. So you're saying that everything you do creates the confidence when you're talking about your identity versus what you do inside the company and inside the specific project or whatever.
Right.
I think that's very strong. And I think I'm trying to think of myself, so back then I really thought that, oh my God, if I lose this partnership or this partner in this project, I don't know how I'm going to make money. And then another one came and another one left and another one came and another one left. And then I realized it has to do with me. So it doesn't matter. Now I'm not stressed about losing a project and losing. But for me, I had to go through it. I had to lose that business. I had to fight with that person. I had to go to court. And then I had to build several businesses for the businesses that I have right now, to maintain in between, the communications with the partners and stuff. And actually the other question that kind of like, I don't know if it overlaps, but so I was thinking of last summer, I don't know if I think it was July, maybe after Affiliate World Barcelona, we were at the Ushuaia beach and it was you and me and John Hefter. And we were, you had a few friends of yours there and you guys were very tired from I think you had a yacht or something the day before. And we were talking to one of your friends that's not in the industry, and she just needed some advice on kind of like finding herself in terms of like her career and just business related advice and stuff. And I really, first of all, I thought that she was I don't know how lucky, if she understands how lucky she is getting, the advice that she got from you and John and even myself. And I saw that we really, each and every one of us really was passionate about helping her. And it wasn't about her. I think it was about, satisfying our need to help people. And I think that's something you, me, and John have in common, definitely. But what I'm currently missing is the question of like, so sometimes I would give, I would hear a friend and my friend would say, oh, I'm doing this and this and this isn't working. And sometimes they're victimizing themselves. And you hear a pattern and you're kind of, okay, am I going to be a friend and just listen to that person? Or am I actually going to jump in here and tell that person, listen, I would have done things differently. I think that you're missing this. You should have done this. Because sometimes my experience throughout this year is that most people just want to be heard. They want someone to listen to them. So how do you generate that environment or like, situation where you know when to give that advice and in what way you give that advice to someone that actually impacts their life?
Sure. That's a great question. It starts with listening, right? So they need to be heard first. So I will enter that and, I will ask some questions like, that's pretty interesting. How is that working for you? And why do you think it's working for you? Why don't you think it's working for you, right? So I'm trying to unpack, what's going on in their world. And then I might at this point start to have some opinions on potentially what they might or might be doing right or could be doing better. And I don't say wrong. I like to say what they could be doing better, because you could always be doing something better, right? So these are communication strategies. If I tell you you're doing it wrong, you're going to put up a defense and you're going to want to defend yourself. If I ask you, are you open to some feedback on, some thoughts on how I think maybe you could do it better? Would you be open to that, right? So I ask for permission to potentially give them the opportunity to say, okay, I'm open and listening now, right? That doesn't mean they're totally open. They could be closed off. And then also, I always remember this saying from when I used to do sales training. It's called telling isn't selling. And if your goal is to convince this person to make changes in their life because you can see a path that they can't see right now, if you're telling them what they're doing wrong and what they should be doing differently, you're telling them, and telling isn't selling. And ultimately, your goal is to sell them on the opportunity or the changes that potentially need to be made in their lives in order to make their lives better. You're going to get nothing from it, right? Mm-hmm. Other than you're going to go through the exercise of becoming a better communicator. And over time, if you do this enough times, you will learn. But oftentimes, in my mind, I will be like, oh, I think I know where the problem lies here. So you've got two options at that point. Your first option is you can tell them what, you can ask them if they're open to some feedback. And, and I might even tell them, like, this might sting a little. This might hurt. Because, you're comfortable, you're protected in your wall, and I'm going to poke through your wall right now, and you're not going to feel that comfortable potentially. Are you okay with that?
It's crazy because I feel like the biggest, the guys that make the most mistakes and it reflects on their bank account at the end of the day, they are the most protective. Okay, so go on.
Right. Yeah. So, I ask them for permission, then I'll say, have you considered this? Or have you looked at that? Right. And as you do this more over time, it's almost like a counselor in a certain way, counselor or coach, right? Have you considered, or have you looked at, this is an therapist option? Yeah. And then they're going to go, yeah, I've looked at it, and here's the reason why it won't work. And I'm like, I respect that. It sounds like you've been down that path before. Tell me more about why it won't work. And then I have them say what they have to say, right? Because as long as somebody's closed up and they haven't said what they have to say, they're just waiting to talk. So it's really important that you let them get out and you really process. And a lot of times I would be like, well, what it sounds like you're saying is X, Y, Z. And then they know they were heard.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest techniques that I learned through therapy. So the first one was reflecting, just mirroring what the person says in terms of, just not repeating word by word, but making sure that that person feels like they've been heard. And yes. The other technique was just like you said, you don't want to raise any defense. So basically, a lot of my sentences or ideas would start with, I completely understand what you're going through, and I think that you are right. It's very hard doing that, and you've done a lot of things that are like that. But having said that,
hold on. You just said but.
The but isn't the but part isn't.
So what if I say, hey Maor, you're a really handsome man.
But
right? Everything before the but is always negated. So these are just communication things, right? What you really wanted to say came before, right? Like comes after the but always.
Yeah.
Right. I could say, man, you're the best media buyer, but right. And now the but's there, and that just
everything just got overwritten. Yeah, I understand. So let me ask you this. What happens if that person, he's your close friend, and you keep giving him advice, and he keeps on either not listening or not executing on that advice, and he keeps on failing, and he comes back crying to you over and over again? Like,
So
do you
people,
cut those types of people?
oftentimes, Mayor, if say they're here on their journey and you're here, oftentimes in as we learn to be a great communicator and we learn to listen to the people we're working with, and all great communicators equal great leaders and so forth, and empathy, right? A lot of times you try and move them all the way over to here. You're like, no, see the light, come all the way over here.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have to do is understand where they're challenged right now, and then think in your mind, if I could just help them with this one thing, that would make a baby step in the right direction to help them get to where I've come. Because if you think about your journey that you've been on, you didn't go from here to here. You went from here to here to here to here to here,
Baby
all
steps.
very little baby steps along.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite things to do is I listen intently on where somebody's at in their life and what their struggles are. And I, a lot of times, just because I've done it a lot and I've been through the struggles myself, and I've done a ton of self-reflection on everything that happens, what I will do is I will listen, and then I will suggest a book. So rather than it coming from me,
That's a smart idea.
I'll be like, you know what? You're ready for this book now. Or you're ready for this chapter, right? So I think this is like, I would buy You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar, and I would read the whole book, but I would really focus on the identity versus role part, because I think it would be super impactful for you right now. And, I can explain it to you, but if you read a book, and it's especially hard because you're the friend.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an outside party that wrote the book, they'll read the book and they'll go, aha. But if there's
It's called the
dynamics.
agent. It depends on who is the agent. If the agent if it's the book, if it's like a person, if it's someone you admire or respect in a certain field, the agent definitely matters. And I appreciate the fact that you want to impact people, and I think that you have a lot more patience than I do. I
Up
learned
until now,
that.
hold on, another language thing. I have a lot more patience than you do up until now.
Up until now, actually, yeah,
So
because
because
that
you
kind of
have to be
like,
really cautious.
mm-hmm.
Every time you say that, it reinforces your
It
confirmation
definitely
bias.
it reinforces that specific mentality and the way that I look at myself, definitely. So
Correct.
I'm just I'm thinking of that it's such a workout for me, because sometimes I would have someone really important in my life, and I'm trying to tell them, I've been through that. I've done it 5 times. I fell through that hole that you're going towards, and I really want to help you, dude, because I see that you're 1,000% gonna fall into that hole. I'm talking so passionately, but sometimes you have to see, because I've been through stuff from such a young age, and I went through partnerships and stuff like that. And I'm trying to save people, time, whether I'm consulting them or they're my friends from back home. And it's very hard to try and kind of like get to
Do you
that
know what they're
mindset.
saying in their mind, Mayor?
I can guess that maybe they think that I don't want them to succeed.
No.
So I have no idea.
They're saying you're different than me.
Oh yeah, you've done it already. You're coming from that point. Yes, definitely.
You're
It's not
different than
just in
me,
their minds. Yeah.
right?
You
So
already have
you're
that.
you're thinking that you're coming from an empathetic point of view, but you're not.
But they see you as maybe even condescending to I understand.
Correct.
Patronizing.
Correct.
I understand. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So, and these things are just important to know. Understand that everybody sees things through their own lens. They don't see things through your lens. So your goal is, through teaching, is to help them uncover some things about themselves, because it's about them. It's not about you, right? As soon as you say, I did this and I did that, and I already know how to solve these problems, it's all about you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, and I want to help you, right? That never works with people, right? What works with people is listening and then being like, huh, Have you looked at this by any chance? I'm probably wrong. By the way, I'm probably wrong in this, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably off base, and I
Mm-hmm.
probably don't have the whole picture. But just from kind of what I'm hearing, I'm piecing together X, Y, and Z. Am I right or wrong in that? No, I think you're kind of on track. Interesting. And based on that, you know, what have you tried? Okay, I've tried these things. So then I'm listening to all the stuff that they've tried, and then they'll start to create what's called limiting beliefs, and
Yeah.
they'll say, "Oh, Facebook traffic doesn't work," and oftentimes I'm like, well, obviously you've had a bad experience with it in the past, and you've got a story, and you've built a belief.
Mm-hmm.
So share that with me. What happened? And what was the process, right? And it's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I worked with an affiliate. I'll use an affiliate network because I run an affiliate network. Blah, blah, blah. I worked with three different affiliate networks and, whatever. And it's like, well, that's interesting. So really you didn't have transparency to the end buyer at the end of the day. And you didn't have a solid back and forth communication with the person actually pulling the levers and creating the creatives. Am I to understand that correctly? There was a filter in between that probably didn't understand as
So you
well as,
make them see the problem at that
yeah. And
specific
they're
point.
like, yeah, that's true. And I was like, this is probably, this is probably wrong too. But like, if you did have that direct access to that person, would it change things? Almost like they were your own internal media buying department. Would that change your feeling potentially on Facebook traffic? Because I mean, Mr. Prospect or Maor, we both have to agree. If other people are making this work,
Mm-hmm.
it's possible, right?
Yeah. It's very
So
important when you get to the point where you say that other peoples are making it work, because that could be seemed to that person as you're trying to prove them, like they're not that good, or you're criticizing their decision and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um,
we just
I,
haven't figured it out yet, right?
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
if
I want to
somebody
ask you
else has
another
solved the
question.
problem,
Oh yeah.
somebody will tell me, oh, pay per call, I've tried it 5 different times and I couldn't make it work. Well, think back to being an early affiliate, right? I tried 1,000 things that didn't work. And then finally I found something that worked. And, our probability to make things work campaign wise or landing page wise, the more times we do it, the more wisdom we get, right? And
Definitely.
the more wisdom that we get, the more we are like, huh. But you have to be really careful that you don't shut that wisdom opportunities down because you think you've got it all figured out, right? The more
Mm-hmm.
I know, the less I know. The more I know, the more I understand that I don't know a lot more, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
So
I want to ask you a last question before we end this. So I think I'm really kind of like exposing you in a way here, and because a lot of people don't know it. So you communicate to the fact that you're not really working hard right now, and that you build a structure that helps you, blah blah blah. And I heard you say a couple of times that you're into building yachts now and stuff like that, but really the truth is that you're very much involved in the day-to-day in your companies. And when I started working with you, I think over a year ago, I was surprised actually to see that. So my question to you is, do you think there is a structure that really allows you or anyone to completely be detached from the company you build, or they build? Or do you even recommend people to aspire to get to that point where the owner doesn't need to be involved in the day-to-day stuff regardless?
I think we could potentially find a better frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am involved in the day to day because I love the business. I don't have to be involved. I mean, last summer, I spent 3 months in Europe and I called home twice.
Mm-hmm.
I met with a lot of clients over there and did a lot of stuff, kind of work wise. But all those clients were like Todor, they're like my friends, and
Mm-hmm.
John, and about Phil Schofman. All these people are my friends that I'm meeting with, but I also do business with them. But I didn't call home really for 3 months, and the business ran fine. I love to create things and try things and test things and learn new stuff. And I made a tweet the other day on Twitter, and that tweet said, struggle equals growth on the first line. On the second line, it said growth equals happiness, right? If I'm growing, I'm becoming more happy. As I'm learning new things, I'm growing my confidence and these things. And then the third line says struggle equals happiness. And if you can associate struggle with happiness, work becomes extraordinarily fun as long as you're solving new problems and not doing the same thing over and over again. I cannot, like, once I've figured something out, I can't do it anymore. I have to find a leader. I have to turn it into systems and processes and KPIs. And then somebody needs to own and run that moving forward.
That's so interesting. I think the headline here, like throughout the topics that we talked about, is how much of like a workout, a brain workout, it is to, just make sure that your brain associates different things and not, jumps into the situation, whether you're talking to people giving them advice, or whether, associating struggle with a positive, emotion.
Yep. Yeah. In those moments where you're like, I'm so frustrated, I don't know like how to handle this. Like, all I see that is an opportunity to grow.
That's crazy.
I love that feeling. I love it. Right. Because I, how many times I've had that feeling? Hundreds of thousands of times. And I've come out the other side with hundreds of thousands of learnings and hundreds of thousands of amounts of growth. Right. So, and then as soon as I'm like, well, this is easy, like I'm bored. I don't want to do it anymore. Right. And because the feeling is, even if it's making a ton of money, who gives a shit? Right. Like, it's not about the money. It's about the growth. Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins' mentor, a few of my favorite quotes are, work harder on yourself than you do in your job. Invest more into yourself than you do in your work. And his next quote is, you make what the value based on what the value you bring to the marketplace. So, and those two tie together so well. It's like, as you become better, you can create bigger and better things, which will bring more value to the marketplace.
That's super interesting. And I think you gave a lot of value here. Dude, I love you. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate you, and thank you for being in my life, and the amount of stuff that you don't even know that I learned from you and being around you throughout conferences and the world, and just like whatever is big, and it created a big impact on my life. So I'm sending you a virtual hug, and yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you again for everything.
Thanks so much for having me, Maor.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to give your socials or something if people want to reach out, follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, the affiliate network's A4D.com. That's A as in alpha, the number 4, D as in delta.com. I am on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And I love TikTok too. All my favorites. So you can find me anywhere. And, I love talking to people. So don't ever feel scared to reach out to me. Please don't, research your questions before you ask them. I don't like people that come to me and say, how do I make money online?
Yeah.
I like people that come and they say, I've been doing this, I've been trying, and I'm stuck. And I think I could be doing much better, but I have just an issue. And I love helping people in that place. So feel free to reach out anyone that wants to, and I'll always make the time to, nurture everybody.
That's perfect. And dude, I can't wait till the next time we meet. Love you. And thank you so much for being here.
Love you too, Maor.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.